Cool. Hello and welcome to another English transformation video with me, Paul, and
Gabrielle here.
Fantastic. Today on the Gold Coast, Australia, I'm going to ask Gabrielle some IELTS questions. So I thought I'd test you because a lot of my students need to do IELTS, and a lot of them recently need 8.
That's a big task, huh?
It is a very big task, and I think that if they were to watch you, it would be a very good thing for them to do to see good language.
Oh, let's say my gauge, because I never even attempt IELTS before, so it's gonna be fun.
That's right. So I've said a lot of nice things about your language. If you're really, really bad now, it's going to be disappointing.
We can edit it.
We can edit it. That's right. Have you ever done IELTS before?
No, never.
Okay, lucky you. So you don't know anything about it?
No.
All right. Well, we'll do a quick...
I just know that you have a clock. That's pretty much as far as I go.
All right. So we'll do a little bit of that then. There are 3 parts to the test, and the first part will be questions usually about do you work or study? And if you say work, then they'll probably ask you, what do you do? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And what would you like to do in the future, for example?
Yeah.
If you choose study, it will be the same questions. What do you do? What do you like?
Different context. Yeah.
Right? And then they will probably ask about your accommodation. Where do you live? Why did you choose it? What's good? What's bad? It's all the same thing, and you should know about you. And everybody gets that.
Yeah.
And then after those questions, there will be random, and it might be, let's talk about dictionaries.
Yeah.
Or let's talk about robots, or let's talk about rainbows, or whatever.
Yeah, a random subject.
So you need to prepare for the things that you can guess they're going to provide, and you also need to be ready for
freestyling,
for whatever happens. Excuse me. And so that's going to take about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
possibly.
cool.
And then you'll get part 2, which is your long turn. They give you a card. Like this.
Cool.
There's an image on the screen now. There will be.
Yeah.
And you get a minute to make notes.
Yeah.
You don't have to make notes, but I suggest you do.
Okay.
There's a minute to make notes, and then 1 to 2 minutes to speak by yourself.
Okay.
So the first part's like a bit of a conversation.
Yeah.
The second part is just you talking. And then the third part is kind of like part 1, where I'm going to ask you questions, you're going to answer.
Yeah.
And they are related to part 2.
Okay, cool.
But you've got to give a longer, bigger answer.
Yeah, more articulated, yeah?
Well, that's right. So it happens to be from IELTS, Cambridge English, IELTS Book 13, General Training, simply because that's the one that was on my table in my office, on my desk. And I'm not going to ask you about your work or study or things like this. I'm just going to ask you the random question.
Okay.
Cool. So I'm going to ask you about television programs.
Cool.
Where do you usually watch TV programs or shows?
On my phone nowadays, more on my phone than anywhere else at home. My free time, it's pretty hard nowadays for people to really watch TV shows, right? It's everything on demand, so you pick and choose what you want to watch. So yeah, I'd say most of the time on my phone or on TV, but more on demand stuff.
What's your favorite TV program or show?
Favorite TV program or show? That's not an easy question, because I don't watch much of TV at all. But I like, it could be like WCT. I like watching surf, so I'm always watching the events that they have. So that could probably fit in a TV show or something like that. That's pretty as far as I go.
And are there any TV programs or shows you don't like watching?
There are quite a few. I think most of them, I don't put my time to it. Like, Married at First Sight, like all these things that I see my wife watching, it just doesn't really get my attention. The last one that I did watch with her, which it's good, you know, to spend some time and have things, you know, in common, especially in TV, was something like The Circle. It's something on Netflix, more of a social experiment, you know what I mean, sort of thing. But to me, it seemed like completely staged, the whole thing. So, you know, it didn't really get my attention for too long.
And will you watch more or fewer TV programs or shows in the future?
I think I'll watch fewer. I think most people will watch fewer. They will select exactly what they want to watch, and I think that's, you know, to me it is already like this right now. I really select what I'm going to watch and stuff like that. So I think TV programs, or they might have to really completely change and, you know, really suit to the audience more. I don't know, it's really hard to speak for in a general term, you know, but for me specifically, I think they will need to be more interesting.
Fantastic. So in the test you would get this card. Again, there's an image on the screen.
Yeah.
It says, describe someone you know who has started a business.
Yeah.
You should say who this person is, what work this person does, why this person decided to start a business, and explain whether you would like to do the same kind of work as this person. And in the test, you would get 1 minute to prepare. So I'm going to give you that minute. You should prepare at home as well. And your minute starts now.
Cool.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
Because that's not a minute. You don't need any more?
No, it's all good.
Okay. Gabriel didn't need a minute. He took 20 seconds. So we'll see how he goes. And now I'm going to time you for 2 minutes.
Okay.
But when you're ready to stop, you just tell me.
Okay, cool.
Stop. All right? So your 1 to 2 minutes starts now.
Okay, the person that has started a business recently was my friend Will, that came from Sydney to the Gold Coast. He started a gym, but it's a gym with a different purpose. It's like a dojo. So he works really on the holistic side of things, and it's a sort of a franchise for a big organization around the world, which is called Training for Warriors. What he does an amazing work with communities. And right now he's doing an amazing job at OMU community. There's a high level of alcoholism and you know, broken families and things like that. And he's doing an amazing job. He actually been doing this for 2 years. And he's really getting a lot of traction in the community and making a lot of waves there. And I think I can relate a lot to that, and that's why I would pick him as you know, something that I would like to do as well. He's using fitness and health as a vehicle to impact the community, but he's doing that in a holistic sense. So to me, that speaks a lot to who I am, and I would definitely like to emulate what he does within my own, you know, direction.
Can you tell me anything else about it?
I can tell that he's very passionate and driven, and I think the reason why he's getting a lot of traction and getting a lot of success is because he's driven for a bigger purpose, and it's not just a money-making machine. Of course, we all know that business needs to make money. It's the oxygen of any business. He needs to provide for his family. So it's not a charity work, but what drives him is something much bigger, something that, you know, to me, it speaks a lot to me. I think contribution to society is something that is very high in my value, and I think it's very high on his value too.
Done. Did so well. Sorry. So, we were talking about someone you know who has started a business.
Yes.
And now I'd like to ask you a few more questions on a similar line. First of all, about choosing work. What kinds of job do young people not want to do in Brazil?
In Brazil? Ooh, it's been a long time that I left home, but I think in Brazil, but I think it might be in general, people just don't want to go to the kind of work that is just like brain dead type of work, where you just need to be like a robot, you know what I mean? You need to be doing things micromanaged and doing the same repetitive task. You don't even see the reason why you keep doing that same thing. I think that's something that is very boring, and people really don't look up to doing those tasks. Of course,
what type of job would that be, do you think?
I think clerical work in a big sense, you know, like let's say work in a supermarket, you know, filling up stock and things like that, you know what I mean? Of course, you gotta do it as a, you know, means to an end, but if you could choose, would you do that? That's the where I'm coming from. If I could choose, would I do that work? You know, and I think most of young people would not do this type of work. I think young people are way more engaged, and they want to know that what they are working on, what they are doing is contributing for something that is related to them. And it's not just something, okay, it's I'm exchanging my labor here, my time for the money so I can, you know. And I think in a sense, I feel that in the younger generations, they way more focus on the reason why they're doing what they do than just doing things to, of course, in the real world, we gotta do what we gotta do, right? We need to pay the bills and all of that, but it's not really by choice. It's by, okay, we need to do it. I need to do it to pay my bills or to buy my things. But if I could choose, I would definitely choose something better.
And who is best at advising young people about choosing a job? Teachers or parents?
I think it really depends. It really depends. It's hard because a lot of questions you ask me, I think it depends. It's not a right or wrong answer. You pick and choose. I think it really depends. Maybe, you know, you have a parent that it's not as present or as not as, you know, articulate as your teacher could be. Maybe you see your teacher as someone that you want to emulate more than even your parents, you know. So it really depends. But if you are to pick one or the other, I would say that it definitely falls on the parents to guide their kids and give them the tools to choose what they're gonna do with their lives wisely. But I know that in the real world, you know, it's not always that way.
And a last question about choosing work. Is money always the most important thing when choosing a job?
Well, I don't think it should be. It is not for me, but I think for young people, it is very high. You know, it is for a lot of people. It is the why you choose to pick the, you know, career you wanna go for and things like that. But I feel like a lot of people will understand a lot more about money, and I think hopefully the scale is gonna tip to, you know, what really resonates with them more, you know, doing for something that they really love rather than, you know, what pays more. Because if you, in many sense to me, if you do what, not just what you love, because that's, you know, like everyone say, oh, do what you love. It's like, do what you do with love, then that will bring you a lot of rewards, and that also, you know, applies for financial rewards, I believe.
Now I'd like to ask you some questions about work-life balance. Do you agree that many people nowadays are under pressure to work longer hours and take less holiday?
I think for sure, if you look at, you know, inflation, interest rates and all these things, you know, like, of course, the cost of living is going up way more than our wages and things like that. So, you know, if you look in a general perspective, a lot of people have to work more to be able to meet, you know, means to an end. Especially, you know, people have more debt nowadays than ever, so they have to work more. But I also see a lot of businesses focusing way more on bringing that balance, or at least allowing their employees to be able to balance that more, with working remotely, having less work hours and things like that. And I think there's a big push for that, and I think it's looking out way better.
What is the impact on society of people having a poor work-life balance?
Oh, I think that goes across the board, and I think that impacts people's health directly.
How?
Well, if you work long hours in a stressful environment, you know what I mean, that's a lot of cortisol in your system, a lot of pressure, that's definitely accounts for more health issues, so there you go. That's already something that you can reduce by having a better work-life balance. Plus, all sort of burnouts and you wanting to change jobs and all these things, to me it's pretty much a cry out for a better work-life balance. And in the end of the day, I don't think we can categorize or split my career, my work life, and my personal life into different sections. I think it's one big thing that we need to be able to balance and to harmonize in a way where, if I have issues in my home, in my personal life, it's not that, okay, I get to work and I just switch that off. It's going to be there. It's going to be in the back of my mind, nagging me. It's going to affect my emotional performance, So I don't think that it is really a choice. You know what I mean? I think we have to learn and to be in an environment that allow us to have greater balance for that,
And finally, could you recommend some effective strategies for governments and employers to ensure people have a good work-life balance?
I think that's a very complex question, so it's not that one answer will be, satisfactory, but I feel like there is a lot of push for reduced work hours, I think that should be something that we have to really contemplate more and see, the dynamics of it. I think if we look at the Nordic countries, Norway, Sweden, they all pushing to a lot of 4-day work, 6 hours work day, what I mean? All these things, I think that they very beneficial, and from the early stages it shows a lot of improvement in performance and productivity. So I think that mindset of you have to work from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, that mentality is definitely getting not just diluted and falling on the background, but I think that's we used to live in a different paradigm, and right now we live in a very complex work global dynamic, and there's a lot of different places that we didn't have back in industrial revolution, where we had to be working like a machine. And right now we have a lot of automation, robotics, automation that do a lot of work for us, so we can enhance our work-life balance. We can have better work dynamics that and I think it's beneficial for everyone, even for businesses. They have less overhead. They can have a smaller offices because people are working more remotely. So there's all sorts of benefits and side effects that I think it should really be analyzed and looked very closely, so we can improve.
Blimey. Fantastic. Well, give him a clap. That was very, very impressive. It's amazing. If my Portuguese can be 1/10 of your English, then I'd be very happy. But I've probably only studied much less than 1/10.
Yeah, maybe after 12 years, if you move to Brazil and spend 12 years there, I think you would say, yeah, no, I get this.
Not much chance.
Now I understand.